And also, relationships are complicated, and perhaps the lack of communication is what makes a relationship not work. Maybe we haven't been taught to express doubts about things that are happening in those relationships. Yes, I know. For some reason, doubts are not acceptable in a relationship. Many would gasp or think it's inappropriate to say to your partner, "I have doubts that this will work in the long run." It's something that's scary to say and scary to hear. But that's the phrase that can save your relationship. If you have those doubts, keeping them to yourself doesn't make them disappear. It's just a lack of communication, which later leads to misunderstandings and can ultimately turn into long-term problems. I think doubts are normal in any relationship, or in any aspect of your life. You can have doubts about your job, whether you're a good mother or a good friend. And I believe that things like that can be very powerful if we communicate them. Doubting is human. Many people sometimes tell us how toxic someone we are dealing with is. And it's common, it's in vogue to talk about red flags and toxicity. But how often do we talk about green flags? I talk about green flags. Yes. It's important because that leads us to a healthier relationship. Perhaps we can say, "This is a green flag, this could be good for you." Yes, I think, instead of scaring people with what they shouldn't do, which can also be helpful, advising them that if they notice something, don't ignore it. I think it's easy for our minds to overlook the good things. You don't appreciate it when they respond to you, but if they happen not to respond, we underestimate a person's qualities. I think green flags are as important as red flags. I wouldn't give more importance to one or the other, but you have to be aware of both, and they can appear different depending on who you are as a person. If you have a long list of red flags for which you say, "I will never date that person again," I hope you also take the time to think about the green flags, like, "This is what I want. This is what meets my needs. This is what will help me lead a worthwhile life, in the sense that it will be rewarding and meaningful to me." When I think of green flags, I think of something as simple as, do my partner's words align with their actions? And sometimes it's very easy to ignore nice behavior and focus on the negative, but I think it's important to shift the focus and pay the same attention to the good things, not to dismiss them but to say, "What wonderful qualities. Incredible. This is someone I can learn from. Someone who makes me feel secure and allows me to be myself." And not only in relationships, but also in interactions of all kinds. Social media perhaps help us find things, success, express ourselves, find people, connections. Yes. What is the most challenging thing you observe in these interactions that causes people to get lost? I think the main issue is comparisons. And obviously, everyone pretends to be perfect. Or what's now the new trend, appearing too vulnerable or using vulnerability to seek attention. And that's very dangerous. Yes, vulnerability is very important. But you don't have to be vulnerable all the time. You don't have to show vulnerability to strangers. No one is entitled to your vulnerability. I think it's because it became trendy to show vulnerability. Now everyone is doing it, and we have to say, "Okay, great." But you also need to know when and how. In some contexts, it's appropriate, and you'll receive love, recognition, and acceptance. Other times, you might provoke someone else, or you'll show yourself as so vulnerable that you'll be torn apart. It happens all the time on TikTok. I've seen people cry and share something really personal, and then they get bullied in the comments. And that's devastating, it's really concerning. People say, "Well, they weren't sincere." I don't know if vulnerability is sincere or not, but the point is that vulnerability is incredible when done properly in certain contexts. And that context should be safety. So, I think social media is also encouraging people to. We've gone from perfect Instagram photos where everyone is retouched, and now everyone is sincere and vulnerable. And I don't know if you're familiar with that trend of, "I don't care, I woke up like this." You think, sure, you didn't, but whatever. We want to be more authentic, and I think it's a great trend. But we also need boundaries within that. Not everyone needs to see the lowest moments of your life if it's not safe for you.